Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this webinar with Positive Luxury. This webinar today will be on mindfulness. I am Terrence the Teacher, for those that don't know yet. I am one of the Sustainability Council members for Positive Luxury. And today I want to share with you just my sort of own personal journey with mindfulness. But also I want to give you guys a look at mindfulness, define it for you, simplify it for you, show you that it's easy to do, and also just make it very practical and hands-on, so that it's something that you can take away from from here today and really use in your day-to-day living. I want to quickly share with you, just on a personal note, so that you know, I'm a clinical hypnotherapist and a neurolinguistic practitioner. And in 2014, I launched an app for weight loss that went to #1 on Google and App Store. So very successful, did very well. And I think it was about 2 weeks after I reached that #1 position. I went for dinner one night, walked home, and on my way home, I realized something was strange or different, and went up to an hotel receptionist and I said, "Don't know what's going on, but you need to phone the ambulance." Long story short, they phoned the ambulance, they came and picked me up, took me to an A&E, and in the A&E, my heart stopped. And I went into cardiac arrest for 20 minutes, came back, another heart attack. For another 10 minutes, I was sort of out of there, and I came back. Now, the reason why I share this with you guys is that I was sent home afterwards, and I was told, "We don't know if you're going to make this, but you've got to go home and heal and repair and see what you can do for the rest of your life." So when I went home, I realized something needed to change. I was helping other people, but I didn't help myself. And that's when someone asked me, "Have you ever heard of meditation or mindfulness?" And I was like, "Don't come to me with mindfulness or meditation. I don't have time. I can't sit on a couch. I can't sit on a carpet and do that magic ride that they talk about." And this person said, no, just come with us and we will teach you something." And this woman said to me, and I want you guys actually right now just to do this with me. She said to me, "Just close your eyes." So I closed my eyes. And she said, "Take in one deep breath." So I took in a deep breath. And I hope you're doing it with me. And she said, "Just slowly breathe out." And I breathed out slowly. And she said, "You can open your eyes." So I opened my eyes. And she said to me, "You just meditated." That is what meditation is. And it was shocking to me. It was very revealing to me. But it also excited me because I thought, if that's true, I really want to know more. I want to know more about mindfulness. And I want to know more about meditation. And over the last 4 years, I've made it my passion to look into it. I've researched it. I've studied it. Now, obviously, I'm teaching it all over the world. I'm part of a lot of companies as a mindfulness expert and coach. And it's really changed my life, and I think it can change your life. But people need to understand it, and they have to understand what it is and what it's not. And I hope today I'm going to give you a little bit of that information so that you can take this really life-changing tool and actually make it, a tool that can change your life. So I've got this little flip chart that I'm going to use just so that, obviously, if you want to make notes as well while I'm talking. So we're going to start with what is mindfulness, or the definition of mindfulness. So mindfulness is paying attention on purpose in the present moment and non-judgmentally. Now remember, when you did the deep breath, you paid attention to your breath on purpose in the present moment. And that's mindfulness. Now this definition was coined by a guy called Jon Kabat-Zinn, who I call the modern day father of mindfulness. And he also created the whole program around mindfulness, which I'll talk about a bit later. But what I want to do is, I want to just go through a little bit of the history of mindfulness so that you guys really understand it. We'll get to the science and then how we use it in our work and in our day-to-day living. So mindfulness history is actually much longer than we think. It's been around from the beginning of life. It's universal. It's something that actually is in our day-to-day lives and we don't even understand it. It was a very big part of Buddhism, Taoism. So it's been around, but the modern day mindfulness as we know it today was actually created by who I said before, Jon Kabat-Zinn, in the 1970s. And he created a program called Mindfulness-Based Stress Reduction, and it was an 8-week program. Now, John created this program in a cancer hospital where people were diagnosed with terminal cancer. And the reason why he brought it in is, as a meditator himself, he wanted to see if this practice could help the patients in just how they experience the pain and also their illness. And because it was in a hospital, they decided to put people on MRI scans, but also to see what happens when they do this MBSR or this mindfulness. And the results was quite amazing. These patients felt less pain. They were calmer. A lot of them healed quicker or healed when they weren't supposed to heal. And really woke modern day scientists up to that there was something in this. There was something in mindfulness and meditation. So they really wanted to go and look at it. Now, I think everyone that's listening to me today knows if you go and Google mindfulness and science, there's so much out there, so much research. So, I don't even have to really go into it too much, but I want to give you guys just a little bit of the science behind what mindfulness will do. Now, just before I continue, I was just thinking maybe if you have questions and you want to send it in through my talk while I'm talking, and if we think it's relevant and I can stop and maybe answer it, that will actually be helpful for me, because often when I do my talks, people in the crowd, I will say any questions and then they will throw it at me. So please feel free to send your questions through, and then hopefully Claudia, the gorgeous Claudia over there, can give it to me and then I can answer it for you. So let's start with the science and why this practice will change you scientifically. MRI scans have shown that our brain changes physiologically when we do mindfulness. It actually changes the structure of your brain. Now we can look at main parts of the brain like the cerebral cortex, which increases in activity, and that's where thinking, planning, decision-making, creativity sits. We look at something like the hippocampus, there's a thickening. Again there, it's got to do with memory, learning. We look at something like the amygdala that thins out. Physically, the brain structure of the amygdala thins out, and that's where your fight and flight center is. That's where our fear-based reactions is. It's also your protector. Now, I want to talk about the amygdala a little bit, because these days, in our modern lives, you would think, because we are living more safe lives, more protected, less danger around, that the amygdala should actually be smaller or thinner. But science and MRIs actually show that more people have problems with anxiety, fear, panic attacks, stress, which means the amygdala is actually overactive. Now, how is it possible? One reason why it's possible is that genetically, we are still hunter-gatherers. In genetics, they say that we are still a hunter-gatherer, so we need our amygdala. So the amygdala realized it had to adapt so that it could survive in this modern lifestyle. So it had to find somewhere else to stress or to find stress from to survive in the brain. And what did it do? It found Instagram, it found Facebook, it found Twitter, it found emails. It doesn't distinguish between the fact that you're running away from something and it creates fear, or that you live in a situation like a war situation and it creates continuous stress, or the fact that you've only got 50 likes on a Facebook post and you wanted 100. Creates the same stress, the same biochemistry gets released. So you sit with kids these days, or young people, or a lot of people even in work life that are more stressed than before because of this overactive amygdala. And I think that this is one of the reasons why mindfulness has become so powerful, because that's one of the structures that definitely is changed through the practice of being mindful and meditating. The other structure that I want to point out is the insula. Now the insula gets energized. It actually shows on the MRI scan that it lights up. And with the insula, it's our sense of belonging. It is the part of our brain that makes us relate to the people around us. And so many people in today's society, even when you live in central London or wherever it is that you live, Paris, New York, you have so many people around you, but we often feel so alone. A lot of it's got to do with the insula that's not getting stimulated. So almost you can't help it to feel alone or dissociated. And they found that when you meditate or you practice mindfulness, the insula actually increases its energy levels, and suddenly people will feel more connected, less alone. Worked with a lot of depressed people, and when they meditate regularly, suddenly they will feel, yes, I'm part of something. So it's the brain structure that changes, that then changes the person. Now that to me means that this is something that I had to do. It was the science that convinced me that I wanted to check in to breathing and mindfulness. As I said, if you have any questions, please send it through. Now, obviously, if our brain changes, so if we have all these wonderful changes that I've just showed you scientifically in the physiological structure of your brain, what does it mean? It means reduced stress, anxiety. You're looking at enhanced relaxation, planning, creativity. You're looking at increased immune function, even DNA that improves its structure. Immune function, obviously, can be broken down through stress. If you have too much adrenaline going through your body continuously, it breaks down the body, it breaks down the DNA. Your body doesn't heal in the same way. And with mindfulness and meditation, because it changes the structure of the brain, it also obviously changes the biochemistry that's released through your body, and it will aid your immune system. Myself, coming back from a heart attack or two, feel stronger than I felt for a long time, feel more relaxed. My heart rate is about 50 beats a minute. It's more like than the top athlete, and it's all through meditation. The last thing that you look at is it changes how you perceive pain. You know, we all have pain, we all experience it, sometimes when we're ill or not, and it can really pull you down. But I found with regular meditators that even pain suddenly feels less, and you can deal or manage it much better. So again, you know, it's not that I want to convince you, but again, looking at all of this, my personal journey into mindfulness just made sense. And I really hope that it will also clarify to you guys why maybe this is something that you really want to look into. It is not just, you know, sitting in a yoga pose and doing weird things on a carpet. It's about changing yourself for the better, shifting yourself physically, emotionally, mentally, so that you can deal with what life actually throws at you. Because if your car, I call this your car, you know, is full of petrol, you know, you've looked after the tires, you've really looked after, you know, your leather seats, whatever it is that you do. But if you take care of it, then you're able to do what you have to do in the world out there. And mindfulness meditation can do that for you. Now, the good news is you don't need to do it for hours, because a lot of people think, you know, you've got to look at 45 minutes a day, maybe an hour a day, maybe 2 hours a day. And there's no need for that. It is, you know, mindfulness works in a very strange way, is that every time you meditate, you change the structure of your brain. But you can do that with a 1 second meditation, and you can do it with a 1 minute meditation, and you can do it with a 1 hour meditation. So let's look at what does meditation do. Okay, first of all, it changes the brain waves, because when we are operating in our brain, it's waves that they measure. When we talk like I'm talking to you now, we are in beta waves. Then when you calm down or you meditate, you go to alpha waves, which is a little bit slower. Then when we're falling asleep at night, we go into theta. And theta is quite a nice slow wave when you go sometimes into dream state. Delta, on the other hand, is quite almost like a coma state. It's the deepest sleep state you can go into. Now you can see the beta is quite fast, and it's like the way I'm talking now, okay? Where alpha is a much more relaxed state. When you meditate, or when you take a minute or two to meditate, you actually take yourself from beta to alpha. And it's in the alpha state that you get all the benefits that I spoke about, where all those other parts of the brain come into action. But before I go there, so what I want you to understand as well Remember, I was speaking to you about the hippocampus, the insula, the amygdala, the prefrontal cortex. One thing that a lot of people don't know is that they all actually run at different speeds. So your prefrontal cortex might be in beta, your alpha state might be controlling your insula, your theta state might be controlling your amygdala. So they all have different speeds that they're going at. And it's one of the reasons sometimes when you're trying to do something that you're either struggling to remember or you're getting very stressed, and then the stress forces you, obviously, to forget about where you put your glasses down or your pen down. Because all the parts of the brain is running at a different speed, it's very difficult for them to work together. It's like having 10 people in a room and they're all screaming or talking at different speeds and volumes. What happens when you meditate is it all starts running at the same speed. And before long, you will find that every part of your brain runs at the same speed. Now, if it runs at that same calm speed, whichever that is, high alpha, low alpha, you can actually hear yourself. You can hear yourself think. You can remember where you've put things. Your memory obviously comes back because that part of the brain is heard. The amygdala slows down because it doesn't get all the power and all the attention. And there you are. And then you're just much more present and you can do what you need to do. I think this might be a very good moment where I'm going to teach you a fundamental mindfulness exercise that you can do wherever you are, on the tube, in a car, on the train, while you're cooking, while you're walking. But this exercise will really help you just to calm down, slow down, and get yourself most probably from beta to alpha, but also just to bring all the parts of the brain into the same speed. Because then I call it resetting yourself. And from that setting point, you find that you can just operate so much better. And you can do it for a few seconds like we're going to do it now. You can do it a few times a day. You can do it a lot of times a day. Or you can just keep doing it. If you've got a minute, do it for a minute. If you want to do it for 10 minutes. And the exercise is called checking in on your thoughts. Okay? So we're going to check in on the thoughts, but also check in on our breath. So what I want you to do for me is just close your eyes right here, right now. And I'm going to do the same. So while your eyes are closed, I want you just to check in on your breathing and just notice yourself breathing right here, right now. Now, as you notice yourself breathing, I want you to ask yourself the following questions. Is my breath fast or slow? Just notice. Is it deep or shallow? And then also maybe ask yourself, where do you notice your breath the most? Maybe it's your stomach. Maybe it's your chest. It can be the throat, the mouth, the nostrils. Just notice where you notice your breathing the most. Just check in with your breath. Don't try and change it, just notice it. Breathing in, breathing out. Breathing in, breathing out. And then after a few seconds, you can open your eyes. Doesn't that just feel great? All you've done is just calm yourself down, slow down your brain waves, reset yourself. Now all parts of your brain can hear each other and they can come through for you. And except for all the biochemistry and the chemical changes in the brain, that will obviously lower your blood pressure, slow down your heart rate. You will feel more relaxed in your body. And that's just a starting point. Obviously, you can develop your practice, add more time. Mindfulness or MBSR training used to be 20 minutes a day over 8 weeks, because obviously to do scientific research, they have to put it in a specific period of time to see the changes. But you know, if you're not in a hurry, start with 1 minute a day, or do 1 minute a few times a day. And then eventually, if you want to build it up to 5 minutes, let it, you know, just fit into your lifestyle. I live in central London, don't know where you live, but it had to fit into my lifestyle. I always said, I met a lot of gurus, people that say, oh, you've got to go to the mountain or go and sit under the tree on a mat or a carpet. And I was like, I can't, because I'm living in this very high intensity, fast paced life. I need something that works for me here. And this is when I found mindfulness. One thing I want to add, and it's very important to know, is that the brain learns through neurons that fire together. Because our neurons is the place where our thoughts are actually active. So if you fire neurons around checking in on your breath or being mindful or meditating, even if you do it for 1 second, you are firing that neuron. And eventually you will build a structure in your brain that goes, oh, she meditates or he meditates. Just by going to it over and over again. I used to joke with my friends and I would go, hold on. And they would go, what was that? And I'm like, I just meditated. But what I was trying to do is just to fire that neuron so that my brain started learning that I was a meditator. And before long, before you know it, your brain will start going, hey, you haven't meditated yet. And once you do 1 minute or 1 second, you can do 2 minutes. And then you can do 10 minutes. And then you build the practice on from there. And there's a lot of different forms of meditation out there, a lot of different forms of mindfulness practices. And you find what works for you. But you have to have the starting point. And it's your breath. It's just checking in with yourself. Just a quick one on your thoughts. When you have a thought that fires, you can have one thought like, I want a piece of cake. Might be one thought, but once it's fired, there will be about 100,000 other thoughts, if not millions, that go off around that one thought. Everything that you think about cake, everything you know about cake, all the different cakes you've had in your life, it will go to the past, it will go to the future. It goes mad in your brain. So you might think you have one thought, but your brain is burning a lot more energy around that one thought. What your thought will do is it will always check in with an emotion. And if it goes, I want a piece of cake, and it goes, oh, that feels great. That will make me feel good. It will make me feel so much better. It will fire so much stronger because every thought will always check in with the emotion. If you've ever wondered why, when you're trying not to have a piece of cake or not to have that, that additional glass of wine, and you're telling yourself not to have it, it's because every time you have that thought, the brain is checking in with the emotion. And if not having another glass is not feeling good, it just gets cancelled out. So your thought will always try and find the emotion that feels the best, and then that will be fired. And then you have the physical response, which is obviously to take a glass of wine or to eat the piece of cake. Now, with mindfulness practice, what happens is if you check in on your breath like we just did, and you just go, oh, I'm just going to check in. What you're actually doing is you are interrupting your thought patterns just in that second, in that moment. And that's very powerful because then by doing that, your brain, which is actually known by science as a wandering brain, isn't allowed to just do its own thing because you've just got, no, I'm just checking in, just going to breathe quickly, or I'm going to sit down and breathe. And it's in doing that, it's in that interruption, that continuous interruption, that you start changing how your brain fires and where it goes. And that's where you're taking the power back. And that's why something like just checking in your breath can do it for you. I'm very aware that I might have to go to questions. I want just to leave you with this and say to you that meditation is to mindfulness what exercise is to fitness. People always say to me, what's the difference between meditation and mindfulness? It's not that there's a difference, they're part of the same practice. But the more you meditate, the more mindful you will become because the more you'll change your brain. The more your brain will obviously react differently to things. They say that people that meditate a lot, instead of becoming reactive, they respond differently. Exercise, if you exercise a lot, you become fit. If you meditate a lot, you will feel that you are more mindful, present in the moment. Myths, and this is something that a lot of my clients ask me. They go, I can't silence my mind. What the heck is going on? I can't silence my mind. Trust me, if you silence your mind, you're not with us anymore. We can't, the mind. It says, So if you silence your mind, trust me, that's not a good place. The mind will always wander. The thoughts will always pop up. That's okay. It's not a problem. All you do is, when the thoughts come up, acknowledge them, feel them, no problem. And then when you're ready, just go back to checking in on your breath. Length of practice, start as short as possible until you get used to it, until it becomes a habit for you. And mindfulness is not just meditation. You could walk mindfully by walking slowly and just focusing on your walk. You can sit for a minute and just listen to sounds, and that can be a meditation. Focusing in or paying attention on one thing on purpose in the present moment. That's also mindfulness. I've got a question here from Elsa, and I want to just read it to you guys because it was a very interesting one for me. So Elsa was saying, given that the modern workplace is a major contributor to unwellness in people, is it time for a major overhaul of how corporations function? Or do you think that introducing measures such as mindfulness and meditation will be sufficient to stem the alarming rate of workplace stress and illness? Now, also, all I want to say is that, yes, corporations need to change. This is why companies like Positive Luxury have brought people like me in to also look at the companies that they work with, to see that the companies are bringing in mindfulness practice, well-being practices that will help the sustainability of the people that work for them. So yes, companies definitely have to look at themselves as well. But in the end, and it's something that I always say, is that your sustainability and your mental health and your well-being eventually does lie with you. So yes, if you become mindful and if you meditate, what you will find is that even the workplace stress, you will experience it differently, and you will even maybe be able to maintain or handle it better. I don't think that it's just either or. Both parties have to come to the table and they have to help each other. I hope that answers your question. I'm just going to ask Claudia if there's any other questions here.
Yes, that I could not see. So we'll do it from here directly if you don't mind.
Okay.
We have a few actually.
Hi, great talk. Thinking about phobias, how would you use mindfulness in a scenario of fear? I'm scared of flying. How could I apply mindfulness? Because I tried breathing exercise, but it doesn't help, as a flight could take up to 3 to 4 hours. All right, my advice with phobias would be is first to connect to your mindfulness practice. So make sure that you do it by yourself when you're calm, so that your brain makes a connection that when I do this, I'm calm. So that when you go to or get on the plane and then you do it, the brain has a connection to when I meditate or when I breathe, I become calm. A very good one is something called the 7-11. They use it in hospitals actually with people that have phobias and anxiety disorders. When you breathe in, you count for 7. And when you breathe out, you count for 11 counts. And what you will find is they've seen that it actually calms down the parasympathetic nervous system, and very quickly it will calm down the rest of the body. So please try the 7-11 when you're on the plane. So first practice before you get to the plane, and then when you're on the plane, do the 7-11 and see if that helps you. But just doing it in the stress situation before you've ever practiced it, it might not happen for you. You've got to be used to the practice as a calming effect for you. I hope that answers that for you. Another one. Can children practice mindfulness as well? I think I'm the wrong person to ask this, because I always say to people, if you want to really know what mindfulness is, go and look at kids, because they are present in that moment, focusing on one thing on purpose, non-judgmentally. So I think kids are quite naturally already mindful, but then lifestyle, and as they grow up and they get onto social media, they get distracted and then they become like us adults. But I think up to about the age of 5 to 6, kids are really mindful. It's our lifestyles that changes them. But yes, a kid's very open to do, you know, a stretch with you, or let's listen to sounds for a second or two. They love playing these games with you. So you could try it with them, but maybe rather go and sit with them and say, what are you doing now? And then pay attention on what they're doing in the present moment. Focus on it, and you might find that you'll feel more calm and mindful. Is there another one? Oh, I've got another question, yeah? Or two. At what time of the day do you think it's best to meditate? Any time of the day is great to meditate. But the way you start your day will always be how you end your day. So maybe it's a good idea to start your day with a quick breath or checking in on your breath, just to start your day calm, and then end your day with a breath or two as well, because at night in bed, you've got so many thoughts that's going on about the next day. But really, if you want to practice mindfulness any time of the day is good. Let it fit into your lifestyle and your life. I'm having trouble focusing on my breath while doing these exercises. What can I do to help? If you struggle with breath, try something else to focus on. Like I said, maybe use sound. Go and sit in a space and just go for the next 30 seconds or minute. I'm going to pick up all the different sounds I can get. If that doesn't work for you, go into a shopping mall or a shop, walk through it and say, I'm going to focus in all the different smells I can get. Because all you have to do is pay attention on one thing on purpose in the present moment. And that will be mindfulness. And as you get used to this practice, then you can just go back to your breath and go, oh, can I see where's my breath? Try something else. There's always something else to do. It's just about focusing on one thing on purpose. I hope that helps you. I think that this is the end. Thank you so much for joining us, guys. And even afterwards, if you still want to send through questions, I'm sure we can still answer them via email. But I want to thank you for joining us today.